Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and to another Sims 4 speed build. So the Sims 4 Snowy Escape expansion pack is finally out, and I thought what better way to celebrate the pack being released than to build a starter home using the new items. So I really wanted to do something weird with this house, and I was really feeling the idea of putting a wall around the edge and having the whole house on stilts, so then we could have like plants and stuff growing up from underneath. I don't really know why I had that in my head, but it's what I wanted to do with this one, so I'm going along with it. But it took me a long time and a lot of tweaking to get the outside to look how I wanted it, because this is so far from what I would normally build. I don't know if I've ever built a lot like this before in any Sims game. I must have done at some point, but none that I can remember, so they're probably not very good. But I'm quite pleased with how this turned out. It is a bit of a weird build. I'm not sure how I feel about it really. I always feel like that with a lot of my builds. I look at them after I've finished and I'm like, do I actually like this or not? Like, obviously I've said before how I always look at them and think of ways that I can improve them, but with this I'm looking at it thinking I'm not even sure if I like this, but I don't know. It's what I come up with. I spent a bit of time in it, so I thought I might as well upload it and see what people think. But yeah, I was trying to make it look a lot more exciting than what it really is, because it's just a starter home. I didn't want it to just look like a bog standard starter home, so I've gone for 2 stories and just generally tried to make it look a bit more extravagant. So at a quick glance it probably looks like a bigger family home, but it's really only suited to 1 sim, maybe 2 at maximum, but really there shouldn't be any more people than that living in this house. But if you fancy a challenge, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. See if you can get an 8 sim household in there. I'd be really impressed, because it may look quite big from the outside, but I was trying to put a bathroom in on the 2nd floor and there was just no space for it. I think part of that is where I decided to put the stairs in the end, because the staircase kind of sweeps around rather than just a straight staircase. It really limited what I could do with the upstairs of the build, because the upstairs is not quite as wide as the downstairs as well. I really couldn't do much upstairs, and I was trying to cram a bathroom into a 1 tile wide space for a long time, and I could have done it if I could put the toilet in there as well, but I wanted to keep with the tradition that I've seen on other Simmers builds, where traditionally in this style of home the toilet is kept separate from the rest of the bathroom. So I've gone along with that, and I've also gone along with the front door and the back door being lowered down from the rest of the floor on the ground level. And I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. So you can see I'm playing around with the staircase here, and I didn't want it to just be a straight staircase, which is fine for the ground floor because there's actually more room to work with, but upstairs it really messes it up, and there's probably a million different ways that I could have done the stairs that would work better upstairs. But because I'm aiming this at being 1 sim, I didn't really mind the stairs opening up straight onto a bedroom, so the entire 2nd floor is just the bedroom, there's nothing else up there. And here you can see I'm moving on to the roof now. And if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I hate doing the roofs. And when I first went into this one, I wasn't really sure how I felt about doing the roofs, because they look really complicated, but they're not actually as scary as what they first appear. But I was looking at the buildings surrounding the lot just to make sure that I was doing it properly, because I thought I could start building it just from what I think would look right in my head, but then I thought if it doesn't fit in with the rest of the world, it was just going to look ridiculous. So I'm just putting the trims around the roof, and I really wanted to bring some of the red in just because I think it really makes it pop, and it gives it a little bit more character because there's not a lot of colour going on, and that lovely bright red colour really goes well with the black woods that I bring in here. So you can see it's really starting to take shape now, and I think you can really get a good sense of the elevation that I wanted with this build. Where it's such a small build, rather than build outwards, I really wanted to build like upwards. And I think it just helps really gives a sense of like grandness to the build. So where starter homes are usually really cheap, I'm always looking for little ways to make it look more extravagant whilst keeping it as cheap as possible. So you can see with the fence that runs along the outside, I really just wanted a plain wall, but there really isn't any. That's the plainest one I could find, and I thought it doesn't really go with the build, so I do actually end up changing that towards the end, just because that's the kind of wall that I'd expect to see in maybe like a warmer climate in like Spain or somewhere like that. I might be completely wrong. That might be like a fully Japanese wall, but I don't know. In my head it just doesn't go with this build at all, so I'll swap that out in a bit. But right now I'm just going around the roof because I was trying to tweak it to look as good as possible but also as cheap as possible. So I put these columns all the way around and then realised they added quite a lot of simoleons onto the price of the house, and they're not really needed. Like some of them you can see, but other ones I was putting on the corners of the build and they just kind of blended in with the rest of the walls. So then I thought they're not really needed, so I'll get rid of those, and it's just saved a bit of money so that I could add extra furnishings on the inside. Because of my previous starter home, which was just the base game, I was actually surprised at how much furnishing I could put in there. But with this one, I did get a bit more carried away and I put loads of nice items in there, and then it got towards the end and I was like, oh no, I've actually massively overspent with this, so I really had to cut back. And it's kind of made me want to go back into this one and refurbish it, or refurnish it if that's the right word. But I'd like to go back to this and completely decorate it with no budget in mind and just see how nice I can make the build. I'd probably keep it as small as what it is, so the feel of the build doesn't change too much. But you'll see where I was keeping the budget so low, the kitchen is so incredibly basic, and pretty much the whole build is basic. So I'd just like to really give it a bit more personality, like someone could actually live here. Now, saying that, I haven't really looked at live mode all that much. I had a very quick look where I moved a sim in. I had a quick look at create a sim, but that's not really my thing. I moved the sim into the house, went up into the mountain and went skiing a few times, and that's pretty much all I've seen of live mode so far. So once I've played around with the buildings a bit more, I might go into live mode and just check it out a bit, because I used to play live mode so much, like with Sims 2 and Sims 3 and Sims 1 even. I used to play live mode, was like my main thing, and building was like, I used to build a lot, but I would still mainly play for live mode. But with Sims 4 that's completely changed, and I actually spend most of the time building, and I'll go into live mode for a little bit and I just get bored really quickly and I think I'd just rather carry on building. But you can see here I'm really struggling to get the stairs and the platforms to work well together. So I know I was saying in my last video about how well The Sims 4 brings these features in and makes them so easy to use. Now I know I said that, and for the majority of the tools it is like that, but I feel like with some of them it's impossible for the stairs and the platforms. I'm not really sure how they could do it to make it any simpler. So I think the way that they've done it is still really good. But the thing with the platforms and the weird staircase shapes is they're quite fiddly things. Like, I don't know how they could make it any simpler. And when you just combine these two fiddly things that are quite complicated in themselves and you try and use them together, you're obviously going to run into issues. But it just takes a bit of time, but I got it working in the end. And hopefully they'll do some kind of patches, like keep working on these features to make them work even better than what they are now. Because fingers crossed and touch wood, I'm probably going to jinx myself now, but I've seen there are a lot of bugs going on and crashing with The Sims 4 since the latest update and since this pack was released. And luckily, I never really seem to get bugs this badly, and I haven't experienced any yet. So I'm probably going to eat those words next time I play. But luckily I don't ever seem to get the issues other people seem to experience. And I'm not complaining, I'm very happy. But you can see here is where I'm trying to get the bathroom upstairs, because I had originally planned it downstairs, and at this point I was thinking if I can get the bathroom upstairs, that will give me more space to fit a kitchen downstairs. So I was experimenting here and I thought maybe I could put the shower and sink one side of the stairs and the toilet the other side of the stairs. And then I thought, well, it just seems a bit weird to have the toilet that far away from the bathroom. So I tried all sorts of different layouts, but here I'm just taking a break from it because I think I knew that I was going to struggle. So I was like, I'll just go around and put some windows in and then try and sort the staircase out. So this was another part which I was getting quite frustrated with because I really wanted to put a wall going in between the bit where the stair looped around on itself, but it just wasn't having it. I couldn't put anything there, so I just put the banisters there in the end, which is I think how it's supposed to work. I'm just clearly not that good at making staircases yet anyway, but practice makes perfect. Hopefully I'll get better as I go on. So I'm looking at this now and I'm actually not minding this layout, but don't get too attached to it because I do change it. Because the main issue with that one tile wide bathroom was getting the sink and the shower in there, so I know that I could probably have done it with move objects on and some cheats, but I really wanted to keep it looking like a proper build, like how it should be, if that makes sense. I didn't want to have to cheat my way around it basically. So I end up changing the bit on the left is kind of like a display area with some plants with a bookshelf, and then on the right it's just another plant, so I basically just fill the awkward gaps with plants, which is what I normally do. So here you can see I'm changing the shape around, and I thought that's alright for the bathroom, but then I looked back at the bedroom and I thought, what kind of shape is that for a bedroom? Like, who would want that? So that goes. I just give up on this plan completely. So I'm just going to skip that part because honestly that bathroom part went on for so long and I wasn't even getting much done. I was just sitting there most of the time like, what can I do with this? How can I change it? And then I had to admit defeat in the end and thought, I'm just going to stick a bedroom up here and that can be it done. Now I did put a wall across the middle because I wanted to make it look a bit more interesting. And I was looking at it just now thinking, please say I got rid of that wall because I don't remember it being there, because it just completely interrupts like the flow of the space. And luckily I do get rid of that later on, so don't worry, that wall goes. But I was thinking it would probably be alright if it was maybe a half wall or just a screen or like windows with wooden slats, so then it keeps that sense of like privacy but also keeps the space flowing and feeling a bit more open. But now that I've got the basic idea of the bedroom sorted, I've now moved back onto the rest of the house, and I just wanted to get all of the like basic items in there, just so that I know this is what the house needs, and then the rest of it is just money that I can use to help make the house look nicer and reach the 20,000 simoleon budget. So I'm just playing around with the flooring now, and I kind of wanted to use this one, but it looked really strange and I wasn't really sure how to get it to look right. And since making this, I have actually seen on Reddit someone uploaded a guide which showed, depending on like the size and shape of the room, there are different patterns that are used, and I'm sure that there's some kind of meaning behind it that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was quite interesting. And it's something that I'm planning on putting into future builds that I do in this style, but for this one I thought it was a bit much, so I've just stuck with the plain brown wooden flooring, and I do add some carpet in there as well just to soften up the room a bit, and also by using carpet it helps to keep the cost down rather than buy a rug or something. And I do actually add in some different colours to the carpet just to give it a bit of geometric shape, just so it doesn't look like a solid block of just greyish, blackish colour, because there isn't a huge amount of colour going on in this build. So because, like I said in my last starter build, I kept that very neutral because I like people to be able to add their own stamp onto builds by adding their own colours and stuff. So I thought I'll try and keep it all black and white, but I just wanted to breathe a bit of life into it just to make it look a bit more fun and exciting. So there's not really much colour, but I thought I'll use the geometric shape in the rug just to give it a little bit of something different. So here is where I'm coming back to the outside of the build just to tweak it. And this is where I started thinking about that fence around the edge again. So because there was no fence that I could find to match the rest of the build, I hope there isn't one, and that I just completely missed it, because I was looking at it for so long. So I just decided to replace it with a half wall in the end, because I did try replacing it with this smaller fence to match the one that goes around the decking on the build. And although I thought it looked nice, I quite liked how the higher walls gave a sense of privacy, especially around the lowered deck at the back of the build, because I really wanted this build to have a sense of privacy, because it's got nothing around it, it's just road all the way around. I thought it's quite an exposed area, so having that higher wall just around the whole edge just gives a better sense of having your own private little space in the middle of this quite touristy town. So we're moving back onto the final part of the build now, the dreaded bedroom. So you can see I'm really struggling to come up with a layout using the furniture with that piece of wall there, so I'm so glad I got rid of that. But it's always a challenge trying to make the room look as full as possible using as little furniture as possible, which is always a challenge with starter builds. Oh, and I've just had a notification come up to say Sims 4 is now ready to play, so I'm guessing they've just released the bug fix that I spoke about earlier. So I'll have to load up the game and see if something's happened, because I didn't even realise it was updating. So hopefully it's not one of those updates which actually ends up causing more issues than what it fixes, because I remember after Eco Lifestyle came out, I think it was, that I swear there were so many bugs with that, and then I think they released another update and it just seemed to make everything worse. So fingers crossed that's not the case with this one. But yeah, you can see, back to the build, I'm just coming up to literally the final few touches now, so I'm just using every last scrap of simoleon that I have to add some clutter items and landscaping, because I really wanted the outside of this build to look really nice and full of life, basically. So yeah, that is pretty much the build complete. So now we come to the final fly through. This is quite a quick one because there's not really much house to actually look at. So you've got the front view here, you've got the rear view. So I wanted to add more to this decking. I'm quite sad that it's so empty, but it's a starter home, so you really can't put that much there. This area I'm quite pleased with. Again, it's hard with starter homes because I see the potential in this. Like, taking this at face value, it does appear to be quite minimalist, but it's got so much potential and there's just so much space to make it your own, or make it your Sims own, I should probably say. Now this bedroom area, I'm really actually pleased with how this turned out after all that tweaking. So yeah, hopefully you like it too. If you do like it, this lot is available to download on the Sims 4 gallery. You can find my username in the description box below. And if you've liked this lot and liked this video, then please feel free to give me a thumbs up. And also comment down below, because I actually prefer comments to likes, because it really gives me a sense of what people actually like and dislike about the build. But that is it for today's video, so enjoy the rest of your day, whatever it is you end up doing, and I'll catch you all next time.